Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Good evening, Maverick family. New viewers from around the world, welcome as well. The world is watching here tonight. And I hope that you all continue to watch as the show progresses, because we have a very special guest joining us, Faina. Oh, hang on a second here. Faina Savenkova, 14-year-old girl from Donbass, who advocates for peace. And because she has called for peace, she now finds herself, or has found herself really for about the past 2 years, on that Ukrainian kill list that we have told you about several times. A list that contains the names and personal contact information for thousands of journalists, political activists, artists, people like Scott Ritter, Roger Waters, and even this 14-year-old girl who, for writing a letter to the United Nations asking for peace, has been targeted and called a terrorist. We'll get into that when she joins us on the program in just a little while. Also, drones will be in the air this weekend in New York City, keeping an eye on you from the sky if you're there. Joe Biden addresses the economy today and the jobs numbers on this Labor Day weekend. Mainstream media focusing even more attention now on that new COVID variant, BA.2.86, and the EG5 variant as well, I guess. So much to talk about, a lot of ground to cover. And what else can I tell you? What else do we have for you? That's kind of the main stuff. But I'm sure we'll dig into some other things. I'm also going to address received some messages about the show last night, which I sort of agree with, but my take on it is a little different because I sit in this chair. So I'll maybe talk about that just a little bit tonight as well, because there was a valid criticism that came in, and I think we need to talk about that as a family. Yes, we do. So don't go away. I'll be right back, and we'll start digging into today's top news stories. Do not go away.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
I'm back. Let's start with a look back briefly at the Freedom Convoy and what has been done by the government since then. Quite a few things. They've been busy, little beavers. These bureaucrats and politicians. The Canadian Border Services Agency has revealed that they have improved the perimeter fences, gate controls, and the road infrastructure at 11 border crossings between the US and Canada, all of that in response to the Freedom Convoy protests, which we saw last year, which did involve some protests at some border points, Coots, Windsor, Detroit. All of it surrounding, the concerns about those pandemic mandates. Transport Canada estimates as much as $3.9 billion in trade was halted because of the protests at the border points. So, some people are getting hit pretty hard in the pocketbook, and the government doesn't like that. The big corporations don't like that, the big companies in particular. And it actually, if you think back, a lot of people, a lot of members of the public didn't like it either because it was disrupting their jobs. But I get it. To me, it was a labor action. It should have been addressed as such. That's my view. Truckers, their workplace is in their truck and on the roads and at the border points. To me, that was like a picket line. That's my assessment of it. Not everybody views it that way. And that is open to legal interpretation. That is for sure. Nevertheless, the government has been spending a lot of money to beef up security at border points in order to prevent other protests like that. And that protest a year ago, just over a year ago, almost a year and a half ago, at those border points, it's not the first time that kind of thing has happened. I covered truckers' blockades at the Windsor-Detroit border before. 80s, 90s. Anyway, Public Safety Minister Dominic LeBlanc says the improvements of the border are in part a response to the recommendations that have come from the Emergencies Act inquiry. And as we told you yesterday, LeBlanc says he needs another 6 months to fully address those recommendations. And then he'll come back and provide another update, as he did yesterday, because the government did say that they would address those recommendations within a certain period of time. They did that yesterday, and now they're saying they need even more time to address those things. One of the other major things that came out of yesterday's statement was that police agencies will start to share intelligence information more efficiently and more often, better. So they're changing their intelligence systems so that they all work together. So that's one of the things they're doing. And I know that kind of information is of real interest to some people right now because of things coming up next month. No question about it. Which brings me to, just briefly, I won't dwell on this at all. But any of you guys follow that Apollo guy? The Apollo guy who was calling for the walkout, the worldwide walkout on the 31st? Yeah, that didn't happen. He's the guy who wanted people to send him all their money because he was going to abolish currency. You know, we keep losing on the freedom side, and I say we because I am by default on the side of freedom as a journalist. That's why I got into journalism. A free media is a cornerstone of democracy and a free society. So I'm automatically on the freedom side, period. That's why I took a stand a long time ago. That's why I got into journalism. So I'm all about freedom, but we keep losing on the freedom side because people keep following people who don't know what the hell they're talking about, or they're just frauds or they're grifters, whatever they are. And they come forward with really silly things, silly ideas that are clearly not serious. And yet so many people follow them. Yeah, it didn't happen. The guy didn't do anything. And I don't know. I mean, I know people sent the guy money, cash in the mail. The other problem with the freedom movement these days is that if I say anything to call somebody out for something like that, I just get attacked. People don't want to hear it. Unity. Okay, whatever, man. Send them your cash then. Good luck. Good luck with that. And you know what? People not taking the guy seriously. Like serious people not taking him seriously. Other people, I don't know why the hell they would follow him. But they did. Mrs. Apollo, send me all your money. Anyway, I'm trying to ignore him. But people keep messaging me about the guy. And a lot of people online mocking him now that he's coming back. He says it's postponed. Of course it was postponed. Now he has an additional 4 weeks just to have people send him the cash. Sending even more money. You're not going to need it, he says, because he's going to abolish money. And everyone was supposed to quit their job. So here he is. He cancels his big worldwide shutdown and exit the system rally for the end of the month. How many people quit their jobs permanently to participate in the system shutdown? Did anybody? I wouldn't be surprised if some people did. But now it'll be another month before the system is shut down and currency is abolished by Apollo. So what are those people supposed to do for the next month? Now that they've sent all their money to him and they have no jobs. What a brilliant scheme. Do they get a refund, or is he going to send a little cash back to them to tide them over until they get to the real worldwide shutdown in September, which it seems to be coinciding with some other events? I hope you didn't get caught up in that. This is why the freedom side is losing. Consistently getting their butts kicked, handed to us on a silver platter. Because people keep following stuff like that. I'm tired of that. Really, really tired of it. I'll come back to it in a little while. No, I'll just deal with it now. It just shit blows my mind. people sit there and they call me a liar, where they say I'm not a true freedom fighter because I call out the obvious. And then people come here, people who have less than honorable intentions, and they get into the chat and they do crazy, stupid things, and they try to sabotage the channel, or they try to recruit people to go do stupid things. And then, I get this, I'm going to address the message that came in last night. Somebody messaged and said that they were watching, but then they tuned out. They said the show was great because we had this fantastic interview with Grant Abraham, who wrote that book, The Battle for the Soul of Canada. And it was a fantastic conversation. And then I had to get the phone system set up because I work here all by myself. I don't have a producer. I'm not complaining about that, but that's just the way it is. So it takes me a little bit of time. I have to run a couple of little promos while I get the phone system set up. If anything gets glitchy with that, sometimes it takes a little more time. And then people weren't calling in for whatever reason. So I was covering other stuff while we were waiting for people to call in. But then finally we got a call. And I don't know what to make of this. Like I have a little bit of a screening system, but the guy who called, for whatever reason, it didn't have anything to do with anything we've been talking about all night. He's talking about a wedding, maybe because my daughter's getting married and I happen to mention that. Maybe it's a personal thing. Maybe he's being kind to me. I don't know. But the subject matter turns to, well, I'm going to run just a second of it so you understand. Please don't tune out. I'll explain why I'm running it I'll just play a little clip from it. And honestly, I found it distasteful myself. I agree with the guy who messaged and criticized. Totally valid. I totally get it. I totally get why you tuned out. I wanted to tune out too, but I was trying to be polite on the phone. And I don't mean to be, disrespectful to the person who called in. I don't know what your motivations were, other than I'm just giving you the benefit of the doubt that you were trying to be nice or something or funny. But anyway, here we go. This was last night. This is me making a funny face. And this is what happened.
Got into the vows.
About a wedding.
And her vows were just absolutely so heartfelt that it almost had me in tears. And then come the vows from the groom. And they were all about farts. How she farted. How he farted. How everybody else farted.
Okay, that's
and
enough.
We had approximately
So I wanted to tune out at that point as well. I totally get it. I don't want to talk about stuff like that on this show. I mean, we do some funny stuff, but okay. Like, it's a news and current affairs program. We're trying to deal with serious issues. Yeah, we get a little light sometimes near the end of the show and sometimes in the call-in portion. Yeah. But, I'd really encourage people to call in to discuss serious issues because we're trying to do some serious things around here. And I do some pretty serious stuff. Look at the subject matter we have coming up. A 14-year-old girl on a Ukrainian kill list. That's serious subject matter. So what's going on around here, especially right now, is, I am a real journalist, have been all my life. I'm dedicated to free speech, free media, and the pursuit of truth. Always, always have been. Regardless of which side is saying what, that is what I pursue, and I'm here to serve you. I'm here to act as the eyes and ears of the public, to serve the public. It's what I do. But some people are afraid of that. Very, very afraid. So they try to sabotage the channel, undermine what we do. You've seen that. I've explained it many times here. Cyber hacking, attacks in the chat, people calling in maliciously, trying to sabotage the channel that way. Now, I could interpret that call last night in a couple of different ways, several different ways. Either this is a genuine call where the person is genuinely trying to be light and humorous, but because I knew that that was going to be so distasteful to some people that it could also be interpreted as a form of sabotage. Regardless, I don't have a producer to screen the calls. I have an automated phone system that costs a lot of money every month just to maintain that one little portion of running this program every single night. Costs a lot of money just for the phone system. But I don't have a producer. And people message with that, like a message like the one I got last night, and I did respond. And I'm going to respond to it right here too. If you don't want me fiddling with the computer while the phone system gets set up, support the channel. Donate something. Most nights go by, I get a great big nothing. And that's okay. Except it isn't, because it costs a lot of money to run what we actually do here. There's a lot of expenses behind the scenes that people don't see, and that phone system is one of them. And so people message me and criticize what happens with the phones. I don't control who calls in. It's just straight up, straight in. I don't have anybody to screen those calls. All I have is an automated screening system through the phone system itself, which puts a name up on the screen, which sometimes isn't even accurate because people don't speak clearly enough into their phone. So it's automated because I don't have a budget to hire anybody to run the phones. We have a couple of moderators who do a bang up job every single night here. They don't get paid a penny. They're straight up volunteers. And then people criticize them, and that's not right either, especially when they're doing their best as people come here to try to sabotage what we're doing and engage in malicious activity in the chat. And they're trying to kind of rein that in. And then we're accused of not supporting free speech because we don't let people just go in there and say kind of whatever they want, to the point where it even breaches laws and gets into illegal things. And we won't tolerate that. And I will not allow people to get in there and threaten people or just become destructive. So, there's certain standards that have to be met. So if you don't want me fiddling with the computer and you want somebody to screen the calls before they come through in a proper way, support the channel. If you want people to be able to call in so that we can continue to give people a voice, then please donate to the channel. It's the end of the month and we've got a giant bill sitting upstairs that I have to cover. There wasn't enough money to come in last month to cover the expenses to run this. And so while I appreciate the feedback, I'm just letting you know that that's the reality that I face every single month. It comes out of my pocket, and that's okay. That's my choice. But if you're going to chime in and criticize what goes on around here, then become part of the community actively and support what we do. We need your support. We need the help. We're demonetized. We don't get any money from the government. We don't have any sponsors per se. I've turned sponsors away in order to maintain the editorial integrity of the program. Hell, man, I should run something else for you to show you how malicious people are and how all this infighting within the freedom community takes a big chunk out of this channel right here. People are supposed to be real freedom fighters. Then they turn around and do what they do here. They're worse than the damn government. I'm going to run it for you. No, I'm not. I'm just picking a fight with somebody that I don't need to pick a fight with right now again. But it pisses me off. You should see what I have. I'm fed up with the BS. I'm about truth, and I'm going to call out the truth every damn time. I'm not going to lie to you, and I'm not going to sit here and scare the shit out of you to get you to donate. I'm not going to sit here and just, list all of the issues that face us, some of which are exaggerated, some of which are truthful and accurate and in context, but you put them all together in a list like I see other guys do every night, and it just gets people emotional, and they just do it to get you to send them money. If you can't afford to send any money here, don't send any. I don't want you to. I don't want anybody sending anything here if you can't afford to spare it. Because I know times are real tough out there. I was the world's shittiest vacuum cleaner salesman. When I was a teenager, I got a job selling Filter Queen vacuum cleaners. I answered an ad in a paper. I was just a kid. I was 16. And I went to the training session. And man, they had this guy who ran this vacuum cleaner door-to-door sales franchise. And I went through his training with these other people. And he was good. He had this whole presentation, and he showed how tough the vacuum cleaner was, and he'd vacuum, and he had the whole presentation down, right? And one of the things that he would do is he'd vacuum your carpet, right? And then if you didn't, and then he'd say, look at all the dirt that this machine sucks up, and he'd dump all the dirt back on the carpet. And then he'd say, people will freak out. Like, why did you put the dirt on my carpet? Well, I said, that came out of your carpet anyway. And then if they didn't buy the vacuum, which was like beyond expensive to me, even back then, this is like in the early 80s. And one of those vacuum cleaners sold for about like $2,000. I think it was $1,680 or something with all the bells and whistles. And if they didn't buy that damn vacuum cleaner from him, he left the dirt in the middle of their floor on their carpet. And they say, well, aren't you going to clean that up? Well, you're going to buy the vacuum. You didn't care that it was in your carpet before. Anyway, that's always stuck in my head. But I was the world's worst because they'd send you out to people's houses to sell these things. I didn't last in the job at all. And they'd send you out to people who are on welfare. So I'd go in, and then I'd tell them not to buy the machine. Because I was like, you can't afford it, man. Don't buy it. Suck. Go buy a Hoover. True story. I got fired. And I couldn't leave the dirt on the floor. I wasn't cut out for that. Anyway, I just have an aversion to that. But I'm tired of losing, tired of false prophets and people who don't know what they're talking about, pretending like they're legal experts. And I'm tired of being attacked for telling the actual frickin' truth. Think back to Winnipeg. people are like, "You're a liar. You're lying." No, I wasn't. Not about one damn thing. Not one thing. And I think a lot of people realize that now. And a lot of people who were accusing me of lying back then, well, you're getting the picture. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Winnipeg, it doesn't matter. All that matters is there's all this talk going around right now about truth. Oh, you should listen to that guy on his video. He only tells the truth. Yeah, his truth. I watched a video and that tells me the whole truth. And no, you're in a propaganda war, folks. There isn't much out there that you can believe at all, period. I'll tell you this. If I wanted to make a lot of money, I'd do what these other guys are doing by engaging in a whole lot of propaganda and fear mongering. I know how to do it. I could sit here and milk people all night long just by scaring the crap out of them or by giving them a false sense of hope with fake solutions. Should I talk about this one? I get them almost every day. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to. Copyright. Several people have sent me information over the last week about some people out there on the freedom side, I guess, buying up copyrights to government legislation. Doesn't work. So they're presenting this to the freedom movement through email messages and meetings as though this is some genius scheme, some loophole or something that they've discovered where they can go in and buy copyrights in order to screw up the government. So let me just take a look here. So this is one of the people. This is just one person who sent me this, among others. Yeah, so they bought Bill C-15, an act to respect the United Nations Declarations on Rights of Indigenous Peoples. They bought the copyright to that, apparently. They bought Bill C-440, or so they say. And then the idea is that, I guess, they're going to create chaos by giving the government a taste of their own medicine, put them in debt by putting liens on their houses. Yeah, copyright doesn't work like this, guys. You can't just go and buy copyright to government legislation and then claim ownership over it. And then it doesn't work like that. You might be able to file the paperwork and actually get the copyright, but good luck doing anything with it other than getting your ass sued for theft or misrepresentation. See, copyright belongs to a creator. The ownership of something that you create belongs to you. All copyright is registration of that created material. So if let's say this is a book or a painting, it could be a sketch pad with drawings in it. I've got doodling in here, so that's mine. All right. So it's mine. It belongs to me. So why would I copyright it? I would go and register that as a copywritten thing. The copyright on this written work of literature or whatever this is belongs to me, and I would register that and pay the fee. in order to protect it, to say, I created it, belongs to me. So if I publish a book, it's copyrighted. Copyright actually comes automatically, but you can register it as well. But the copyright is automatic. All right. Now, say I found this on the street. I didn't write it. And I decided to copyright it. Well, the copyright doesn't belong to me because I didn't create this thing. Whoever wrote this, it belongs to them. They created it. So if I go and copyright it, and this is like a copy of whatever they wrote, like it's a copy of the book that they wrote, and I take this down to the copyright office and I say, I'm going to copyright this, I just stole it because I didn't buy it from the guy who wrote it. So it doesn't belong to me. So if I do anything after I copyright it, say I take the book out and get it published and it ends up in bookstores or on Amazon for sale, the guy who wrote it's going to sue my butt, even though I have the copyright. And if he can prove that he wrote it and I did that, then I'm in deep shit because I'm going to have to pay him a settlement because it doesn't belong to me. I would have stolen it. Now, it can end up in a dispute in court because the guy who created it might not be able to prove that he actually wrote it, in which case the person who got the copyright stole it, copyrighted it, and there's no way to prove for the creator that he actually did it. That's why you sometimes see disputes over whether someone stole a song because the guy wrote it, maybe had all the sheet music for it, threw it in a drawer someplace. Somebody saw it, stole it, but because the guy never actually got it published, so there's no public record of him actually having done that, of actually having created it. And the first public record of it is registered by the person who stole it. Then it becomes a very difficult thing to prove in court. That's why when you create something, you need to publish it in a public way or make it very clear in public that this work of art or whatever it is that you have is yours, and let the public know. And once the public knows, the copyright is automatic, but then you can still go down and register it just as an extra layer of protection. Or if you've created something and you don't want to publish it, you can copyright it before you publish it in order to protect it in the event that someone does see it and wants to steal it. You ever see that movie about who invented the intermittent windshield wiper? There's a perfect example of something like that. It's about patents. It's the same basic idea. The guy got screwed for years by Ford because they kind of stole his invention for the intermittent windshield wiper. There's a movie about it. I can't remember what it's called. It's a pretty good flick. That's the way copyright works. So I'm saying this. Do you really think that these people who are going around telling all of you freedom fighters, all of my family out there in Maverick land, that they have some solution to these problems, this government overreach, by buying up by buying copyright registrations on pieces of government legislation, that's any kind of solution at all? Once they've got it registered as a copyright, can they prove that they wrote it? They weren't involved in the creation of it at all. And as it was being drafted, it was being discussed, all of these pieces of legislation in Parliament and in the Senate. And it had to go through a process of being passed. And all of the people who drafted those pieces of legislation, all those politicians and the bureaucrats and everybody else, all touched it. And it belongs to the government. It was published in a very public way. So I don't care how many copyrights they buy on any piece of legislation. It holds no force, no weight. They're wasting their $50 per piece of legislation on the copyright thing. It's just a waste of freaking time. And if they do anything with it, they're going to end up in court, and they're going to end up with great big legal bills, which they probably don't care about on the surface, because they're going to go in and try to self-represent using some form of common law, which won't help them at all in court. They're just going to get their asses handed to them. And then, of course, the standard procedure with all of these folks, when they do this crap, is that when they lose, because they don't have a legal leg to stand on when they go into the courtroom to begin with, is when they get kicked out and laughed at, they come out and they say, it's because the system is corrupt. No, it's because you don't know what you're talking about. Or you're doing all of that on purpose just to get people to donate money to you. It's as simple as that. Or you're doing it in order to distract people when they need to be focused on finding real solutions to the real problems. So these people doing these things, they've got you running around in circles, focused on shit that doesn't get you anywhere. You're wasting precious time and energy. And I'll bet you dollars to donuts that tonight I get smashed with negative comments and people attacking me and accusations that I don't know what I'm talking about, or I'm not a true freedom fighter because I'm not going along with the copyright thing now. I don't know. Please help. Please. Oh. Guys. Every day. Tired of it. I'm just exhausted. These people are leading you astray. And they're clueless, or they're malicious. They're just playing up to no good, or I don't know what the hell. They're just. See, it's the same. It's like if you buy it, if you went and bought a car, you paid money for the car. Car belongs to you. It's yours. Ownership is yours. You buy it from a dealer, or you buy it from a person in a private transaction. You get a receipt. You pay the cash. They give you the receipt. You own the car. It belongs to you. That's all you need to do to own it. It's yours. But then, in order to drive the car, do other things with the car, in order to comply with other rules and regulations, so you can drive it on the road and all that stuff, and in order to protect your ownership in a legal way, in the legal system, you go to the Ministry of Transportation office, or the DMV, and you register the car using the car VIN number. Make sense? It belongs to you regardless, whether you register that vehicle with the DMV or the MTO, regardless of where you live. It belongs to you now. You've paid the money. It belongs to you. Just as if I went and bought a refrigerator, paid the money, got a receipt, that fridge belongs to me. It's got a serial number on it to identify what it is, the exact unit, and that refrigerator belongs to me. But with a car, you can take it an extra step, and you can register that with the MTO or the DMV. Now, they have you do that because then it's licensed and they license it to be on the road and there's all of that stuff. That's one of the reasons why. But the registration also gives you an extra layer of protection on the ownership side. Now, what these guys have done, these copyright gurus, what they've done is they've done the equivalent of this. It's like they see somebody buy the car. And then before that person, maybe they park it in their driveway and they were going to go down and register it at the MTO or the DMV the next day. But they haven't done it yet. So what these guys did is in the dead of night, they run into the guy's driveway and with a flashlight, they look in the windshield and they write down the VIN number, the vehicle identification number of the car. And then before the guy gets up in the morning, they run down to the DMV or the MTO office. They register the car. And then the owner gets up, the actual owner, and goes down to the DMV or the MTO to register the car. And they look at the real owner and they say, well, I'm sorry, Mr. Car Owner. You're not the car owner because it's already been registered like half an hour ago by some guy in a black ski mask who came in here and then he left just half an hour ago. So you're probably the thief. But no, see, not going to quite work because the real car owner has a bill of sale, a receipt. And he says, no, it's mine. I've got it right here. This is my receipt with a signature on it, and it can all be verified in court. You see what I'm saying? They don't own the legislation. And I don't care how much, I don't care if you've got the copyright or not. You're not doing anything with that. You're not screwing up the government. You're not going to create chaos with it. Oh, you might get into court and then get your ass handed to you along with a big legal bill or worse. It's not helpful. It's destructive. It's malicious. It causes a lot of trouble in the court system because now you're probably going to end up in court in a legal battle dealing with all that crap. But you're not going to achieve what you're telling people you're going to achieve. You're just going to end up with charges against you or a lawsuit against you. At which point you'll just turn around and say, well, the system is corrupt. No, you were being malicious and engaging in basically legal mischief. And in so doing, you're actually discrediting the entire freedom movement, whatever that is today, which doesn't seem to be anything credible anymore because of all this kind of crap going on. It destroys everything from within. It's another tumor, which is a part of the cancer that has been destroying everything from within for quite a while. Story to tell you, but that's the truth, the real truth. So listen or not, take it for what it's worth. I'm not a lawyer. You go get yourself a real lawyer. You bring him here or bring her here, and we'll have a further discussion about it. Not some common law, sovereign citizen, Freeman on the land, legal loophole guru guy who's going to just tell me I'm wrong because I just don't understand. No, I freaking understand. I totally get it. 100%. This is the dumbest thing since the last dumb thing. Sorry. I told you I wouldn't lie to you. It'd be real easy for me to sit here and go, oh, they've got this thing, right? And they're going to really screw up the government. It's going to cause all this chaos. And donate now. All you got to do is support us. And then, and, oh, look, we lost in the court. And it's so corrupt. But we're going to keep on fighting the government. So donate now. No, people don't donate when I say stuff like this at all. They don't want to hear it. You probably don't want to hear it. You should listen, though. You should be listening. Because what I'm telling you, this is the damn problem. This is why you keep losing. Gonna lose. Already lost. Lost before you started. You're not even playing the same game. This isn't even playing the game. This is just being mischievous. Trying to cause a problem. You don't get anywhere doing that. Just causing a problem. Just being a dick. I have figured out a way to be a first-class legal dick. First-class number one a-hole dick. Support me. Follow me. Right over here, I'm going to go into this courthouse and be a dick. Nothing I'm doing actually makes any damn sense, but I'm filing a bunch of paperwork, and that's really going to piss them off. This is my plan. What a stupid, dumb thing to do. What a great way to discredit yourself and everyone around you. I'm sorry. I am tired of it. I want no part of it. I've had people call up here on the phone system, which costs money every month, to get mad at me for telling truth just like this and then say, remove yourself from the freedom movement. I don't need to remove myself, man. You guys have already blown the coop over there. I'm not following that. So don't worry about it. I'm not going to be there when you go into the courtroom for that. I'm not interested. I'm so tired of all the legal blah, blah, blah that you guys throw around that gets everyone nowhere. I don't want anything to do with it. I never did from the very first moment. I've never followed any of that. And I won't. I'll tolerate a discussion about it. I find it kind of interesting, the mindset, but I also know that it leads nowhere except into financial distress, legal despair, and loss. To the point where I see actually people who are following this stuff, I'm seeing people actually lose their homes, their livelihoods, and even their families because they're following these gurus. That's how serious it is. And this is destroying the freedom movement. It is not helping anything. Ask yourself, in the last 3 years, all these people coming up with all these plans and selling these courses and teaching people all of these things, do they ever freaking win using any of that? We're seeing some things in court get thrown out. We're seeing some legal wins, but none of them based on any of that stuff. Not that stuff. It's all based on what we saw. What was it this past week in Alberta? Chris, what's his name out there at the Whistle Stop Cafe? His charges were dropped. That's because the government, the politicians screwed up, and they were the ones making the final decisions on who was being charged, not leaving it to Alberta Health Services and the province's medical officer of health. But that's not a common law thing. None of that. They didn't follow their own rules in their own legislation. And as a result, the Crown just dropped the charges. It almost makes me wonder sometimes if they do these things on purpose because they don't actually want to hurt the people. Or if they're just stupid, which is probably more likely the case. But as a result, a lot of these other cases are now going to be thrown out. But it has nothing to do with these gurus. They're not involved in that stuff. And I'm sorry, but it's a pattern. I keep seeing people too. They're hurt. They're suffering. They they follow the advice of some of these people, and then they get into trouble in court. I've actual people that I'm talking to who have lost their homes. They're homeless, living on the street because they followed that kind of advice. It's wrong. And the people leading them are making bank because they're charging people for courses as they go across the country, or they charge for courses online, they accept donations, and they continue to present themselves to people as the solution because they've got the language. In Canada doesn't even exist, according to them. I have more to say about that in the nights ahead, too. This has to stop. It's going to stop. It stops here. Stop right here on this channel with me, period. I don't want my friends living on the street. I don't want any of you guys suffering. I don't want you hurt. I don't want people taking advantage of you. I don't want them using clever language on you to mislead you. I don't want them doing it to other people. I don't want them doing it, period. They are con artists, scammers, not just grifters, scam artists. Whether they're taking money or just seeking power and recognition and public attention. They enjoy the limelight. They like going across the freedom rallies and standing there with a microphone. Blah, 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 blah. I watch some of this stuff now, as a lot of the people within the movement have gone back to their jobs and their lives because they need to pay their bills. And I still watch day to day, and weekend to weekend. And I tune in and I look and I go to these rallies and I see and in the microphones. And I'm like, these people don't know what the F they're talking about. And people are like, yeah, Trudeau. It's like watching a circus sideshow half the time now. I mean, just look at the people like they're trying to lead you. Get out your nooses. Stu Peters. Yeah, whatever, man. Screw all that. I'm making changes around here over the next week. My daughter is getting married, and so I'm going to, immerse myself in some of that family stuff. I've got a bunch of other family stuff this week too, so I won't be on as much. And not only that, but I'm going to be making some changes here to the channel. I'm going to get involved in, some production work in the studio. I will be on through the next week, and I hope that I haven't pissed too many people off with too much truth here tonight. So I hope some people come back. But if you can't handle the real truth, then there's nothing I can do. You make your own choices, whether you stick around or not. You can go watch some of these other wingnuts who have the plan. If you want, it's up to you. I don't want to lose you. I want you here. Here, come back if you've left. But I'm not going to sit here and lie. Refuse. I need the help. I could use some money. Oh yeah. I could use some help, but I ain't going to sit here and lie to get it. And I'm not going to use emotional, psychological manipulation bullshit to get people to donate cash. Nope. I do other stuff too, just to pay my bills. It's not this, that's for sure. But the work we're doing here is important. That's why I'm here. because there's a lot of work that still has to be done, because I still see serious problems out there, just like you do too. Real problems. We need to address them. No question. And it just seems to be getting worse, especially with that war. That's why you can't get distracted, guys, by the laser light, like the cat following the laser light around. You can't be looking up at the clouds. The sky's not falling, not there. They want you looking up there. And it seems some people want you immersed in this legal babble gab, which is just crap. It's like Tucker Carlson this week. Like he said, lockdowns. It's a concern. Are they coming back? We don't know. Could be. Mask mandates, all that stuff. Maybe. But as Tucker said, probably they're not going to do that in that way again. It's the war, baby. It's the war. It's the war. That's the next big thing. War with Russia. Like, you can see it. God help us all. It's just escalating and escalating, and we're already in it, man. Like, if the U.S. led NATO forces and resources were withdrawn from Ukraine, if we just stopped funding it and sending them the weapons, Ukraine wouldn't last 24 hours. It would be over. Because it's not Ukraine versus Russia. It's the U.S. and NATO versus Russia. And as we've seen now, drones going through NATO countries are being launched from NATO countries, maybe within the last couple of days into actual Russia. Baby. That's where we need to be focused, is there. And we need to be focused on the core issues surrounding our individual rights and freedoms right here at home. Working to actually get them restored. But you're not going to do that if you're following guys around who like, send me all your money in the mail, cash. But at the end of the month, you won't need it anymore because I'm abolishing all currency. Because money is the root of all evil. This is Apollo. Send me all your money. Come on, guys. I think probably, our people in our family here, probably a little too smart for that guy, but there are others. Chill. Get real. And then maybe we can actually get something done. We have big censorship issues here. You're not going to solve that by buying the copyright to Bill C-18. Like, think about it. I bought the copyright to Bills C-11 and C-18. So now that I own them, I hereby abolish censorship. Thank you, Apollo 2.0. Doesn't work like that. We got serious problems. We need serious people to deal with it in serious ways. I don't know what else to do. Just keep coming back here, man. I'm not going to steer you wrong. I'm not saying I've got all the solutions, but I'll sure as hell not perpetuate the problems. Let's take a break. Come back and dig into the nitty-gritty and the meat of the matter. Get into today's top stories.
Hello, world. Are you awake? Uniting humankind by liberating millions of minds at a time. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so speaking of censorship, this is kind of on the opposite side of that. This is like politics as reality TV. The latest developments in that Georgia election interference case against former President Trump and 18 others. Well, Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee has announced that the hearings, the court proceedings, they are going to be broadcast on YouTube. So we get to watch it. It's like entertainment. So this judge is being praised for a commitment to transparency. But I don't know. I have to laugh about this. What's the real reason for doing this? There are a bunch of different reasons. It's because this is George Orwell's 1984 come to life. This is an information war, and part of it is to turn all of this into some sort of a reality TV series for us, I think. You know, I did a whole documentary series on cameras in courtrooms when I was young. And I did it as part of a team project. It was a radio documentary series. Ran over a week. It actually went up for an award, which we didn't win because we were up against some pretty stiff competition at the time. This is years and years and years and years and years and years and years ago. But we interviewed a lot of lawyers and judges and just people who were experts in their various fields of law and media. And we explored how cameras in courtrooms affect things, testimony, perception of evidence, the way lawyers act in court when there are cameras or there are not cameras. And at the time, in Canada, they had some test cases going on where they were allowing cameras into the courtroom to see what the impact would be. And the studies that were done showed that the cameras absolutely do have an impact on what goes on and the way the proceedings are handled, because the lawyers, the witnesses, they play to the camera or they're affected by the camera. If they're confident, they'll act for the camera. Or if they're introverts, they might clam up and respond differently when the camera's there. And a lot of different impacts were recognized through the studies that were done, and we laid those out as part of this series that we did. So when I'm sitting here looking at this decision to live stream Donald Trump's trial, on the one hand, I was always in favor of sort of putting cameras in courtrooms because I do believe it's important to have transparency. I was always an advocate for it. But I see in this case that they want ratings. They want ratings, or Wow. I don't think it's a bad thing overall, but I just think it's a sign of the times. We're living in an information age and we are immersed in an information war. And this is going to affect the election. You see, just that one decision alone will have a direct impact on the outcome of the upcoming presidential election. I don't know which way, but it's going to have an impact. It actually suddenly now gives Donald Trump a whole lot of free publicity, a ton that his challengers will not have access to, not on that level. So you see, I think that even the knowledge of that has to have an influence on whether the judge decided to, which way the judge decided to go on that issue. Cameras or no cameras. The judge might not like Trump and he might be thinking, let's broadcast this and we'll show the world that he's guilty. Or he could be thinking the other way. No, we're going to broadcast it because we know he's not guilty and this will show the world that he's innocent. And that will get him reelected. Or depends on how you look at it. But regardless, it's going to have an impact. Everything has an impact, and this will have a major impact. And I think it's worth a chuckle because what they've done is they've turned the political process, the election, the court system, this particular trial into another reality TV series. Welcome back to the OJ trial. That's why in Canada, for right or wrong, they just generally are no cameras in courtrooms because it does turn it into a bit of a circus because people play to the cameras and it has sometimes unintended consequences. Like if you broadcast the proceedings nationwide and there's an appeal and you need to then later select a jury on a court case, where do you go to get an unbiased jury? You have to find people who didn't watch the previous broadcast, who didn't watch the trial, the original. You have to find people who are kind of oblivious, don't know all the evidence, so that they just get the evidence and then the new upcoming trial, you see? So you broadcast that across the country as it happens, and you're going to have real trouble finding jurors who would qualify to participate in that process down the road. It's just an unintended consequence, but that's just one example. So as Judge McAfee eloquently put it, we'll have to iron all this out, and it sounds like we might get plenty of practice hinting at the complexity and significance of the case that lies ahead. But that's not all. In a separate order issued on the same day, McAfee furthered his commitment to transparency by permitting the use of cell phones and laptops in the courtroom during the trial. Bling, 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 bling. The phones will be going off. The order explicitly states it is hereby authorized that all parties and spectators are allowed to use recording devices or non-recording purposes throughout the duration of the case. That's a little weird. However, it's important to clarify that while court attendees can use their phones or laptops for communication within the courtroom, the recording of the trial itself will be restricted to the television coverage and the live stream. So you can sit in there and, hey, I got an update for you, Joe. Calling into the newsroom. Put me on live, will you? This measured approach aims to balance principles of open justice with the need to ensure a fair and orderly trial. So Trump and 18 others charged earlier this month in a sweeping racketeering indictment, which is in itself kind of weird, given the kind of case that we're really dealing with, for alleged efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election in the state of Georgia. So Trump has vehemently asserted that his actions were not illegal and has accused the investigation of being politically motivated. In the heart of Atlanta at the Fulton County Courthouse, Judge Scott McAfee presides over a pivotal moment in American history. Yes, he does. With live streaming, televised coverage, and the use of modern technology allowed within the courtroom, the world will have a front row seat to the unfolding drama of this high-stakes trial. Reality TV come to life. Thank you, Donald Trump. Thank you, Judge McAfee. But weird Twilight Zone come to life. It's a real thing. Wow. Are you going out to celebrate this Labor Day weekend? If you're in New York, keep an eye on the sky because they got an eye or two on you. They are, the NYPD is going to be using drones to monitor backyard Labor Day parties. Can you believe that? I don't like it. During the pandemic, the height of the pandemic and the lockdowns, I went to some rallies, some protests. There was one in a park here in my hometown, and I don't live in a real big city. It's a small city. And some prominent speakers came and stood up on the stage. And I was there. I was shooting video, brought it back, ran it on the air, ran it online here. And while I was there, and it wasn't the only time, the local police had a drone up and they were taking footage from the sky of all the people in the park. And it was intimidating. Yeah. Very intimidating. Didn't like that. Spying on people in a public park because of the pandemic measures implemented by the government. So the local cops were like, we'll just videotape all of them from the air, and then we'll get facial recognition and we'll charge them all later, or whatever they were going to do. And some charges were laid against some of those people. Some of them stuck, and because some people took settlements and a few of them got thrown out. But what a hassle. Not the only thing. I remember a long time ago, now seems like a long time ago, there was an event. Chris Sky was speaking. I didn't know he was going to be there. I was told, you have to come out to this thing at farm. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. So went out there with somebody. I didn't even know what it was. We were told to go to this farm. So we went out to the farm. And get there, whole bunch of people, big crowd. I actually got to stand up on the stage and say a few words because I was asked to. So I did, along with a bunch of other people. I was like, we're not happy. We're against all the bad things. And I stood up there and I said all my stuff, like other people. And then I was told, Chris Sky's coming. Chris Sky's coming. Chris Sky is coming. Oh, Chris Sky is coming. I know. I've never met Chris Sky. So anyway, yeah, he did show up, and he rolled up there in his tour bus. Everybody's like, oh, Chris Sky's here. His rock and roll tour bus and everything. I was like, oh, okay. So anyway, he spoke. But even there, the local cops showed up and they put a drone up. It was supposed to be a big super secret meeting. It was so secret, the cops knew exactly where it was happening. And they showed up and they put a drone up, and they were, again, same damn drone. And they're like droning us. Like, oh, they're like, they don't, like, this is private property. That bothered me. I didn't like that either. I didn't like that. So in New York City this weekend, Labor Day weekend, cops are going to have drones up, a bunch of them. So, yeah. Unmanned aircrafts, they call them. And they'll be responding to complaints about large gatherings, including private events and they'll be shooting video, and then they say they can respond quicker. And the mainstream media, not surprisingly, because they don't want to piss off the cops, because they got to get the contacts, and the cops got to tell them the stuff about all the crimes. And you just don't want to get the cops too upset. Well, here's just is this CBS in New York? Yeah, CBS. Just listen to how they treat this. We'll just run a little bit of this. Listen to the language. Oh, this is going to be so good. It's all for public safety. Yeah, right. We've heard, everything these days is for public safety. And, I don't mean to criticize the cops. I mean, I see some good things, but overall, I'm like really opposed to it, because you're going to fly this over private property. You're going to fly these things over private property. I don't know. We need new laws with air rights included, which would prohibit, I think, the use of drones over certain areas, in particular private property. But that's another issue altogether.
Attending outdoor parties and big parades over this last weekend of the summer season.
And the NYPD will be watching out for trouble in a whole new way, using surveillance drones meant to respond faster than officers. CBS News' Elijah Westbrook joins us live.
Welcome to George Orwell's
That's right. Well, Chris and Mary,
dystopian
essentially, when you
future.
look at it, these drones are the eyes and ears from the skies, hovering over parties
yes.
and large festivities aimed at keeping people safe, of course.
There's no
Now, police
escape.
say, for example, they get a 311 complaint about loud music at a house party. The idea is to deploy the drone and pre-screen what is happening at that location. Now, the drones are said to be equipped with audio devices and speakers that are operated by officers on the ground. Those officers are also able to play a live or pre-recorded message and ask for compliance with, let's say, turning down the music before cops arrive. Now, the NYPD says this tactic was used in June during the city's Pride Parade, where hundreds of people gathered inside Washington Square Park. They say within 10 minutes, the park was cleared without having to send out additional officers into the crowd. And that goal is the goal is that the method will be just as successful.
New York City, we're going to lead the way of what a safe West Indian Day or Labor Day weekend is going to be. We are confident that the work that the police commissioner, Commissioner Caban and his team has put together is going to be effective.
And here's something that's interesting. Police also tell us there's warnings being
It's all
sent
for
out
your
to gang
safety.
members to be on their best behavior. Cops have sent letters to the homes of about 40 people who are on record as a known gang member from the area. We're told the letter informs them they have been identified and will face scrutiny. Chris?
Elijah, thank you.
Don't like it. You don't like it. It bothers me greatly. Do not like it. It's just, I don't like photo radar either. Don't like that. I don't like it. Never liked it. But there's no escaping the technology. It's coming whether we like it or not. What we need to do is reinforce the law so that it protects and serves the people properly. That's what we need to do. You can't stop the technology. Drones here, artificial intelligence, digital technology. We need to lobby and get involved, get people in there who respect individual rights and freedoms, and then beef up laws, legislation in ways that protect our rights. What we have right now is governments in Canada and the US that are doing just the opposite. They don't respect individual rights and freedoms at all. They embrace the idea of, putting drones up in the air. Mainstream media supports it as well. And they figured out that what they need to do is do it in the name of public safety. And in that way, they're able to sort of do an end run around our rights. Because then it's this collectivist approach to a social initiative, which then requires you to participate in a way that sort of flips reality upside down. legally, morally, ethically. It flips it upside down, puts the onus on you. And this just takes privacy and just kicks that right in the butt, doesn't it? So now the cops are going to have a drone hovering over your backyard, checking out your barbecue because you had a few friends over, and some curmudgeon 2 doors down doesn't like the music you're playing, so calls the cops, who show up with their toy to justify their budget. And they are looking at you down in your backyard. Maybe you got a big privacy fence up and you got no clothes on or something. I don't know. Doesn't seem right to me. If you want to run around naked in your backyard, you go right ahead. I don't want nothing to do with that either, but you go ahead. But no, they're going to check that out and then send a cruiser around if they don't like what they see. You're worried about a 15-minute city? They don't need a 15-minute city, man, to do what they want to do. They can do whatever they want now. They're doing it. They're doing it. They're already doing it. Are you cluing in? They're already doing it. This is what they do. 15-minute city. They're doing it. So, well, you're worried about that. We need to be worried right now about real legal challenges. That's why also all that stuff earlier. That's why I'm getting so frustrated. You got to deal with this stuff realistically and robustly. It's just 15 minutes. No, dude, there's a drone above your freaking backyard right now this weekend. Okay? Not that I'm trying to scare you at all. I'm just saying they're doing it. So let's deal with it. If you don't like it, like some people like it. I don't like that stuff. But, you know, and for a while there was pushback from the public on even photo radar. These days, not so much. People have just come to accept it. It's become normalized. Photo radar set up over there. You got a ticket. We still get some pushback back on it in some jurisdictions, depending on the political leanings. These are the issues of our time. Don't get caught up in the cliches and the labels. It's the issue of privacy and individual rights. That's what you need to be focused on. Just saying. Just saying. How about the economy? Now, there's another big issue, right? Where's the inflation rate? Well, officially in Canada and the US, it's around 3.3% on both sides of the border. You know, the goal is something less than 2.5. Otherwise, you have inflation that becomes, well, it really doesn't, it's not manageable for the average person. And at 3.3% unemployment, inflation rate, it's really eroding the true spending power and savings of people who really did the responsible thing for many, many years and saving and investing in retirement savings plans and so on, 401ks in the US. And spending power has been eroded. And Joe Biden lies. Lie. And he can't even get his numbers straight. So today he was addressing, because it's Labor Day weekend, he came out and addressed jobs numbers. And if you listen very carefully, I mean, he rattles off all these statistics, talks about how great the economy is doing and how all these new jobs have been created. It's easy to create jobs after a pandemic when you've locked everybody down and shut down everybody's business and said, thou shalt not conduct business. Thou shalt not pay anyone, and all people shall go home and not work. You're destroying the economy. It's a gonzo. And that's what they did during the pandemic. And so Biden comes along, and then the pandemic is declared over. People start going back to work. And then he claims, takes all the credit for all the people going back to work. Those are all jobs that Joe Biden created. And then he points to Trump today and says, my predecessor is only one of 2 presidents in history who, I'm not doing a good Joe Biden. I can't do him right now. But he's like, Trump left office with fewer jobs than he came in with. Well, I don't think that's quite the case either. In any way you slice it, the pandemic started while Trump was in office and all the lockdowns, crap like that. So, I mean, the economic slowdown was a result of all that stuff. So he inherited that. He got that laid right at his feet, whether he liked it or not. And so today, Biden was lying to the people again. And I don't like it. But even as he's skewing the data and cooking the numbers and lying like Biden lying Biden, he sat there. He still couldn't get his numbers straight. There's one mistake in particular that I think I heard, and I'm going to listen to it again, and I'll point it out if it is indeed what I think it is. But like, what do you like? Why do they even have him sit there and read off a prompter all these stats and numbers and things? He can't get it. Even when it's in front of him on a piece of paper or on a teleprompter, he can't get it right. Here's Joe Biden.
As we head into Labor Day, we ought to take a step back and take note of the fact that America is now one of the strongest job creating periods in our history, in the history of our country.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago that America was losing jobs. In fact, my predecessor was one of only 2 presidents in history who entered his presidency and left with fewer jobs than when he entered. Look at where we are now. Just this morning, we learned that the economy created 190,000 jobs last month. All told, we've added 13.5 million jobs since I took office. Around 800,000 of them manufacturing jobs. We created more jobs in 2 years than any president ever created in a single 4-year term.
Because everybody was
We did it
laid
in 2
off
years.
by the government.
What's more, when I took office, the unemployment rate was 6.3%.
Because you told everybody to go
The
home.
nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office predicted that it would not get below 4% until the end of 2025. Now, the unemployment rate has been below 14% for the last 19 months, the longest stretch in over 50 years. We've recovered all the jobs lost during the pandemic.
That was a mistake.
We've added 1 million more new jobs. More than 700,000 people joined the labor force last month, which means the highest share of working age Americans are in the workforce now than at any time in the past 20 years. People are coming off the sidelines, getting back to their workplace.
Population is bigger too. That's
Job
one of the reasons your
satisfaction
numbers
is
are
higher
flat.
than it's been in 36 years. We've seen record lows in unemployment for African Americans, Hispanic workers and veterans, and workers without high school diplomas, and the lowest unemployment rate in 70 years for America's women. At the same time, inflation continues to fall. It's now around 3%, about 1/3 of what it was 1 year ago. In fact, we learned yesterday that over the past 3 months, inflation was close to what it was before the pandemic. And incomes are higher now than they were before the pandemic.
Of course, because inflation.
While pay for low-wage workers has grown at the fastest pace for low-wage workers in 2 decades. Remember,
It has to, because the
some
prices have
experts
risen so
said
much.
to get inflation under control, we needed higher unemployment and lower wages. But I've never thought that was the problem. Too many people having a job, or that working people were making too much money. And now, after months and months of bringing inflation down, while at the same time adding jobs and growing wages, it matters. And it's no accident. I came to office determined to build the economy in a different way, from the middle out and the bottom up, not the top down.
Cliche.
Move away from trickle-down economics and instead focus on the middle class. Because when the middle class does well, and this is not hyperbole, when the middle class does
It's not hyperbole.
everyone does well.
Come on, man.
Everyone does well. The wealthy do very well. The poor have a shot, and the middle class can make a living. The Financial Times and the Wall Street Journal have heard me say it before. Started calling my plan Bidenomics. It's about investing in America and investing in Americans. It's working. Key pillar of Bidenomics is empowering and educating workers who are the backbone of this country. I want to mention a few actions my administration took this week.
Okay, that's enough. That's enough. Okay, look. It ain't that great. Inflation is down. It was, first of all, he can't get his numbers straight. So I never believe anything he says because he can't even read numbers off a prompter and get them right. He screws it up. He did it right there. And unemployment's been below 14% for however many years he said now, blah, blah, blah. I think he meant to say 4, but he said 14. So I don't even know what he's saying half the time. It doesn't even make sense. And then this notion that inflation is coming down, hooray! Doesn't mean prices have come down. It means they're going up slower. The only way prices come down is if you get deflation. Deflation. Actual price reductions, which would register as a negative number, a negative percentage point. You don't go there. All this increase, if it's 3.3%, that's 3.3% on top of all the other price increases that we've already had. Even if they get it down to 2.5%, that's 2.5% on top of everything, all the other price increases. So when I go to the grocery store this week and I go to buy my fish, which is in short supply these days, but if I go to buy my fish and it's say $16 for a package of fish, I can tell you that a year ago, that same fish was $11.99. Now it's 16. And if inflation is sitting at 3.3%, and officially in Canada and the US, that's where it's at. I checked it. Then what that means is I'm getting 3.3% additional on top of that $16 if the inflation rate remains steady at that point. And if the price of fish increases at the same level as the average, 3.3% is based on a formula looking at a cross section of goods and services. So this idea that they're winning and they're like, good job, inflation's down, just means we're all going broke slower, a little bit slower. And he caused the damn inflation with his Inflation Reduction Act to begin with. He made it all worse. First, they gave away too much money during the pandemic. Then they came in with the Inflation Reduction Act, which combated the higher prices by injecting more money into the system, more free cash, especially in Canada, which just fueled more demand for goods and services, resulting in more inflation. And then, like in my province here, they came through with legislated minimum wage increases, which didn't get people any further ahead, because after they did that and they brought in the minimum $15 per hour minimum wage, prices at every fast food restaurant, variety stores, everywhere, prices went up substantially. And they went up all over the place. And that was one of the reasons why. As wages increase, prices increase as well. The costs to the employers went up, so they had to increase their prices in order to maintain the same profit levels or to cover their expenses or whatever. It's just the way the economy works. The real reason for inflation is that the government doesn't actually produce anything. They just spend our money. And when they run out of our money to spend, or they want to redistribute the wealth, they just print more money because they have the power to do that. And we give them the authority. So they just print more money. But as they print more money and spend more money and give that money away in order to buy your influence or buy your vote or give it away to other countries or finance wars with it or whatever the hell they decide to do, it makes your money worth less. So it's actually like them taxing you through inflation, because your money becomes worth less because it fuels demand for all kinds of other goods and services, while it makes your money less valuable because there's more supply of the money. So it's like they're reaching in your pocket, taking cash out, and giving your spending power to somebody else. In some cases, to people in other countries. Thank you, Joe Biden. You suck. Liar. Half-truther. Misleader. Purveyor of dis and misinformation. Oh, man. I'll probably get banned for just telling you the truth on that. But I think I've said it many times here before, and you guys have got to be cluing in by now. Blah. Terrible, terrible, terrible. There's a new COVID variant coming, the BA.2.86. We talked about it, and now mainstream media reporting that it is in 5 states. Health officials are sounding the alarm bell on it. So a genome sequencing team in Houston Methodist Hospital say it has identified the first case in Texas. And I was speaking to somebody who said that they know somebody who actually has contracted it. That was down in the southern U.S. Can't remember the state now. Not sure what state they're in. But the Ohio Department of Health has also confirmed that one case is being detected. I think at Windsor Regional Hospital just recently too, they reported that they have some COVID cases. I'm not sure which strain they're saying they have in there. They've got that EG5 version of the virus, which I think is somebody really trying to mess with people's minds in some sort of a sick, twisted joke, because if you turn it around, it's 5G. I think that's also an attempt to distract people and drive people who are maybe on the edge just a little bit over. Leaving me scratching my head, I'll tell you that. Why would they do that? They've got to be either it's just somebody with a dark, sick sense of humor. They know. Just, you can't make it up. Oh my God. It's just, of course they did it. Of course they did. Because when they call it that, they know that it will just drive some people right around the bend, and they'll just get fixated on that, and it'll preoccupy people for I don't know how long. And here I am even talking about it, but it just blows my mind that they would do it, and they did. I just can't make it up. Oh man. And this is what's, got everybody worried, that they might be getting ready to bring back lockdowns and mask mandates and all of this stuff. And I'm seeing politicians seize that opportunity as well. I'm getting emails from prominent politicians talking about it one way or the other. Maxime Bernier was sending out a mass email campaign again. People's Party of Canada talking about that issue. And then we saw Alex Jones and others last week predicting more lockdowns coming, then sort of walking that back. That was a little weird. Normally we're all sitting there, Alex Jones was right, but now he's saying, no, it's not going to happen because I predicted it, and now they're running scared, and they're not going to do it now. So claiming victory before anything ever actually happened. Although you could see, you're still seeing a prelude to it. So I think, could actually happen. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen in the fall, but we've seen this play out before. I'm a little worried, just a touch. Yeah, don't go away. Won't be long now, and I'm going to bring you that interview with that brave 14-year-old girl over in Donbass, living in that war zone, and punished because she is calling for peace. And tonight here on the Maverick News Channel, we're going to give her a megaphone and let her share her story with the whole world.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
What other things do I have to tell you about tonight? You want to invest in something? John's an investor, right? This is a car thing. You ever see the Mustang Bullet from the movie Bullet with Steve McQueen? I've seen the real car. I've been like right next to it. Do you know how much that thing has increased in value? 16,000%. They came out with a list of all these cars that have this heritage, and history behind them. Haggerty, it's an insurance company for classic cars. They came out with a list. They do it, I guess, once a year. It's called the what do they call it? The Power List. And they talk about the dramatic effect that celebrity ownership has on enthusiast car values. So you're talking about cars that were owned by people like, I don't know, Princess Diana, just big name celebrities of any kind. And then there are like movie and TV cars, which always command high prices anyway, if they became famous in a movie like the Batmobile, right? And then Disney Pixar, they've created like some cars that are like come to life versions of cars from the movie Cars. So they created like a Sally Porsche Carrera from the Cars movie. Anyway, it's worth a crap load of money. But more to the point, you've got cars like the risky business Porsche. It's pretty crazy what happens to some of the prices on these cars. But the king of them all, not the Batmobile, not the Dukes of Hazzard car, not even the Ghostbusters car. It's that Mustang from Bullet, because its history is all documented and it was lost for a while and found and blah, blah, blah. It's got all this crazy story behind it, and it has increased like 16,000% over the price of a regular Mustang that sold for in its day. Anyway, just a little tidbit for you. Pretty crazy stuff. Yeah, and I've stood right next to that car. It's kind of rough, actually, but they won't fix it up because it's worth more, just the way it was as it appeared in the film. Yeah, what else do I have here? I think we're kind of getting to the point where we've covered most of the news. So let's get this interview cranked up. This is Faina Savenkova. She's 14 years old. And, she's been living in a war zone since like 2014. She can't actually really, I don't think, remember a time when she hasn't been living under the threat of war. So this is a recorded interview that I did with her earlier today because of the time difference. And she has risen to international prominence because she wrote a letter to the United Nations calling for peace. She's an inspiration, truly a leader. You know, I spoke to her today, and before I run the interview, I can tell you that I found her to be refreshing, genuine, and I get the sense that she's being very, very honest. Because I just asked her some casual questions, which after I was done with the interview, and even as I was conducting it, it became quite apparent to me that she wasn't exaggerating about anything. She was just being straight up honest. There were questions that I asked that she could have easily, cooked up an answer to tug at heartstrings, to manipulate me and others, you tonight, emotionally. And I did not get the sense at all that she was doing any of that, because there were questions that I asked about, the severity of the battle, the damage, casualties in her area, and she could have easily deceived me because I've not been there. She could have said, "Oh yes, it's really bad, and this is what's going on." But sometimes the answer she gave were like, "No, in this particular answer here is no. I have not seen that, or it's not that bad there. This hasn't happened to me." So I appreciated that. I took note of it because she has been accused of being a propagandist and an information terrorist, and has actually been added to a kill list. We've told you about this kill list before. The Marotvorets website translates into peacemaker. This website, let me see if I can find it here for you again. It has thousands of journalists, political activists, artists listed with addresses. I don't even know if I can show you this because they have dead bodies all over the front. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'll skip past the bodies and I'll just show you this portion of the main page. So this is a website that is sanctioned by the Ukrainian regime, and they allow it to remain up. People on the list advertised through this website, some of them have actually now been, and they do use this word on the website, that have been liquidated. We're talking about civilians. We're talking about journalists. Give that some serious thought. This is a website that calls for actual violence, calls for people to be killed, not soldiers. Thousands of people. The Ukrainian government under Zelensky has been asked over and over and over and over again to take the website down. And he refuses to do anything about it, just ignores those requests. Same thing in the West. Nothing has been done. The information on that website gives the exact addresses, contact information, locations of thousands of people, and accuses them of crimes that, in my estimation, probably simply are not true in many instances, most, if not all. There might be an inconvenience to the Ukrainian government because they might be opposed to the war, but that's an issue of free speech, freedom of expression, freedom of opinion. Prominent names on that list: Scott Ritter. I don't know, maybe even we're on it. Don't know. But there is this 14-year-old girl, Faina. 14. They say she's a terrorist. We'll run the interview. You can decide. If you don't believe what you watch here tonight, I encourage you to even go online and do more research on your own. Find out more. We have a petition at maverickpetitions.com. It's been up for quite a while. People can sign it. I encourage you to go there and add your voice. When we get enough signatures, a substantial number, we're going to submit it to both the Canadian and U.S. governments. It will call on our governments to put pressure and demand of the Ukrainian regime, Zelensky, to take that website down, because it is an assault on free speech, free media, freedom of expression, political thought. That's what we stand against here. So today it was an absolute pleasure and a privilege to speak to this young lady. Here's the URL. You can go there. It doesn't cost you a penny. Read what is posted there and add your voice to the chorus calling for that website to be taken down. She's on that site. 14, living with a bounty on her head. What were you doing when you were 14? I remember 14. It was a magical time. Talk about waking up. 14. That was the 1970s for me. And it was a magical time. Star Wars, Grease, they were all new at the time. Drive-ins, beautiful summers down on Lake Erie at the beach. Magical times. 14 years old. Not a care in the world like that. I mean, I cared about stuff and I thought I had some problems, but looking back, what a great time. What a great time to be alive. Boston, more than a feeling. You know, those were the days. Getting into the 80s. Growing up. Camaros and Firebirds and Mustangs. Vans with water beds in the back. I miss the before times. Oh man, do I miss them. Seat belts optional. You choose. Freedom to put yourself through the windshield if you want. I remember what the weather was like too. It was up and down back then. I remember some very crazy weather back in those days. And now, depends on which side you're on, which way you decide human beings are manipulating the weather. There's the climate change side, or which, people say it's a hoax. Or on the other side, there's man-made manipulation of the weather. Either way, back then, it turned into acid rain. That's what they were trying to scare us with back then. And hole in the ozone layer. But it was still a magical time. It was way better than it is now. Vinyl records, cassette tapes, and then later the Sony Walkman. Man, if you had a Sony Walkman, man, you were something. Adidas running shoes and AM radio turning into FM, and then there was album rock stations. You see, that was a time of more freedom. Not pure freedom, pretty darn close. That was the sweet spot. For me, if we could get back there for everybody to live more like that, it would be great. But it's a pipe dream. The technology and everything has changed. You can't get that back when you've given up so much control to government entities. And the technology isn't going to roll back either. Not unless we bomb ourselves into the Stone Age, which is entirely possible. But it won't be like the 70s again then. It'll be like caveman times or worse. And that's what our guest tonight is working to avoid. Faina Savenkova, Donbass girl, faces the war by writing fairy tales, stories. She's a playwright. She's a writer and an activist. That's how she defines herself. She, in my view, from speaking to her today through a translator, she's like any other 14-year-old girl, sort of. She's mature way beyond her years and wise way beyond her years because she has been living in a war zone since 2014. She's used to hearing explosions. She has learned to live with the threat of death. And she says that she writes fairy tales because magic doesn't allow us to surrender. And it gives her hope for peace. She lives in Lugansk. She's a member of the Russian Writers Union and a member of the International Federation of Writers in the junior category. She has won more than 4 awards, has written several books, including The World That Doesn't Exist, an idea she had in her dream, and she also wrote the novel called Standing Over Your Shoulder, which speaks about life where she lives. So she wrote this letter to UNICEF and the United Nations, and she was 12 years old at the time. And she asked for help because of this website, Merotvorets, which has a whole list of names on it, people who are wanted for being Kremlin agents. She's been added to it. She asked them to help put pressure on to take it down. No help there. And that letter that she wrote has propelled her to international prominence. And she has become something of a a peace broker, an advocate for peace, being interviewed now internationally on all kinds of podcasts, live streams. And fortunately, she has found her way here as well today. And it was an absolute privilege to meet her today. And I'm going to share that interview with you right now. Faina Savenkova. Let me bring this up for you. As I say, this was recorded, so it is not live. For full transparency, the internet cut out on her interpreter. And so while we were recording, the interpreter feed froze up and then dropped off completely. We continued to record. I did cut the segment together, so you will see an edit there. That is why. Otherwise, this interview runs uncut, uncensored from start to finish, from the moment I pressed record to the moment I stopped. And there was only a very brief conversation before and after, so that you understand I did not manipulate the interview afterward. Not that it's going to matter that much. It's just pretty straight up stuff. But at the same time, extraordinary, because this is coming from a 14-year-old girl who should never have had to do this. Shouldn't have to even talk about or think about this at the age of 14. Indeed, since 2014, she's been dealing with it. She can't even remember a time when she hasn't been living under the threat of shelling, war, death. Here we go. Faina Savenkova.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
I'm back, and joining us now from Donbass is our featured guests, Faina Savenkova, and your translator, who I have not met yet. I'm not familiar with your name.
My name is Maria, and I'm currently in Moscow.
Okay, and is Faina in Donbass?
Yes, Faina is currently in Lugansk.
Okay. Well, I'm so glad that you were able to join us here on the program tonight. I think Faina's story is important, and it's heart-wrenching, and it blows my mind.
Рад, что ты нашла время присоединиться сегодня к программе. Твоя история совершенно потрясающая, и он очень рад, что ты с нами. Спасибо.
For our viewers, Faina is a playwright, a writer, an online personality. She has been added to this Ukrainian kill list that we have told you about on this program before. It's called Overreach, and it's a list that contains thousands of names of journalists, political activists, artists, including Roger Waters, people that we've had on the program, interviewed like Scott Ritter in the past, and they've added Faina's name to this list. Faina, can you explain to us why? Do you even know why they added your name to the list?
Ну, тут было небольшое представление тебя, Фаина, про то, что ты писатель, про то, что ты теперь уже известный медиа-человек, и про то, что ты занесена на миротворец, куда включены тысячи имен журналистов и других людей, политических деятелей, и просто обычных людей, в том числе и известных людей, как Роджер Уотерс или как Скотт Риттер. Но ты там ребенок на этом сайте. Объясни, пожалуйста, почему? Ты вообще знаешь, за что они тебя так?
За мое мнение, за то, что я пишу книги, за обращение в ООН, в принципе, то, что я рассказываю свое мнение, опять же, по поводу конфликта в Донбассе.
Because of my opinion, says Faina, because I write books, because I appealed to the United Nations, because I expressed my opinion about what is happening in Donbass.
They probably don't like you because you're calling for peace. Is that accurate?
Они, видимо, не любят тебя за то, что ты призываешь к миру. Это так?
Скорее всего, так.
Yes, that's probably true.
I I can't imagine what it's like to live with your name on a kill list, and you've been in that situation for many years as a youngster. How does that affect your mental state? How does it affect you psychologically?
Вот он не может, Рик не может себе представить, каково это жить, зная, что ты на миротворце, в списке на убийство, а ты там уже много лет. Скажи, пожалуйста, как это влияет на тебя психологически?
В принципе, не особо сильно влияет, война все-таки больше повлияла, но разве что стала более осторожной.
Well, it doesn't actually affect much because there is war around me and it has a greater influence. But I probably became more careful.
Is there fear? Do you experience fear because of it, or have you just learned to live with it and accept it as something in the background?
Скажи, пожалуйста, ты испытываешь страх из-за этого, или ты научилась с этим просто жить, и это у тебя так на заднем плане как бы постоянно остается?
Как бы страшно не звучало это, но я, наверное, уже к этому более-менее привыкла.
It might sound strange to you, but I'm actually pretty much used to it.
I can understand.
Понял.
What is it like to can people here in Canada and in the United States do not I don't think they understand at all what it is like to live with war around you. Can you please explain to people here what it is like for you to live every day with war around you?
Люди в США и Канаде, скорее всего, не понимают, что это такое, и каково это жить, когда тебя окружает война. Ты могла бы объяснить для них, каково это, когда война вокруг тебя? Как жить с этим?
Постоянно обстрелы, ходишь в школу, например, представь свою жизнь, потому что понимаешь, что учиться нужно, но тем не менее постоянно обстрелы может прилететь, и ты погибнешь.
Well, it's constant shellings. You continue to go to school, but you constantly know that, as they call it, arrival, an incoming, uh, whatever that might be, missile. It's just my explanation. They call it arrivals. So it can happen at any moment, and then you can die.
And Faina, have you lost friends or relatives to the war?
Скажи, пожалуйста, из-за войны ты потеряла друзей или родственников лично?
Естественно.
Luckily, no.
The stories that you write, what do your stories and your plays focus on?
Вот ты пишешь книги, ты пишешь истории, пьесы. Скажи, пожалуйста, в чем основной фокус твоих произведений?
Я пишу о борьбе добра и зла, о детях и о животных.
I write about the fight between good and evil, about children and about animals.
Okay. The fight between good and evil, that must have something to do with the war.
Ну,
Is,
вероятно,
is that
борьба
true?
добра и зла имеет отношение к войне, правда? Это так?
В какой-то степени, да.
To a degree, of course, yes.
Yes. And your journey through this time, and has it opened your eyes to political struggles, such as the struggle between um, different groups like fascists and others?
Скажи, пожалуйста, вот это, как он называет, твое путешествие, твой путь, а, он тебя привел к пониманию, например, политической борьбы, различных групп, как они борются политически между собой, фашистов, например?
На самом деле не особо. Все еще плохо в этом разбираюсь. Но кое-что, в принципе, понимаю.
Well, not really. I do not know all of it very well, but I think I understand something.
I see. How was it that you were, um, how did you get involved to the degree where you were actually asked to make a presentation to the United Nations?
А как ты вообще, как вообще так получилось, что ты настолько стала вовлечена в процесс, что обратилась к ООН?
Просто я решила, что стоит обратиться по этому поводу, потому что все-таки дети имеют право на мирную жизнь, и на этот конфликт следует обратить внимание, я считаю.
Because I think that all children have the right to live in peace. They have the right to have peaceful lives, and that there should be attention paid to it. That is why I made this appeal.
I noticed also um, something you wrote for the American people. It was something related to Thanksgiving. What is your message to the American people? It was obviously, I think your message is one of universal peace.
Ну вот ты написала обращение к американским людям, да, к американцам. Оно касалось Дня Благодарения. Скажи, пожалуйста, вот что бы ты могла, как бы ты к ним обратилась, что бы ты им сказала? Он так понимает, что твое послание– это послание с просьбой о мире.
Да, именно. Пожелала бы
Yes,
именно мира.
it is about peace. I wished for peace.
Are you online? Do you have much of a following?
Скажи, пожалуйста, у тебя много подписчиков? Может быть, ты онлайн как-то представлена?
Не особо считаю.
Ну, у тебя же есть Donbass Insider, у тебя же есть вот эти каналы. Расскажи про них.
Ну, в принципе, я беру интервью, например, у многих людей из Америки, из России, которые как-то рассказывают мне о Донбассе, об Америке, в принципе, о политических делах в мире.
Well, I take interviews of different people from different countries, and they tell me about what's happening in America, what's happening in Donbass.
Yes.
I do that.
And do you think there's much difference between children, teenagers where you live, and teenagers and children in America?
Как ты думаешь, большая разница между детьми и подростками, вот где ты живешь, да, и между детьми и подростками в Америке?
Я думаю, что особо сильной разницы нету, разве что дети Донбасса, они как-то больше ценят жизнь, я бы сказала. То есть они стараются все сделать быстрее.
I don't think there is much of a difference, but I think the children of Donbass value life more, and they try to do everything faster.
And why would they try to do everything faster?
А почему они стараются сделать все быстрее?
Потому что идет война, и завтра уже может постоянно наступиться.
Because it's war, and tomorrow might never happen.
So it gives you a greater appreciation for the value of life in the face of death.
То есть вот ты перед лицом смерти ценишь жизнь больше. Exactly.
What kinds of things do you do with your friends? When I was young, I used to go to movies, and I lived a fairly carefree life.
А
What
что
is
ты
it
любишь
like for
делать с
you day to
друзьями?
day?
Вот когда Рик был маленький, он ходил в кино с друзьями, ну и, в общем, жил такой беззаботной жизнью. Вы с друзьями как время проводите?
Ходим в театры, в кафе, гуляем
We go to
вместе.
cafes, to theaters. We go for a walk together.
Yeah. You do the same kinds of things that young people in the West do. Is that true?
То есть, в принципе, вы делаете то же самое, что и молодые люди на Западе. Это же так получается.
Да.
When two countries go to war or great powers, propaganda is used to dehumanize the other side.
Когда две
Do,
страны начинают воевать друг с другом, используется пропаганда, чтобы расчеловечить противоположную сторону.
do you think your work helps to bring people together and understand that we are all people?
Как ты думаешь, твоя работа помогает людям больше понимать друг друга и признавать, что мы на самом деле все люди?
По крайней мере, я надеюсь на это очень сильно.
Well, at least there is a huge hope. I really have a huge hope that it is so.
Yes. Your friends, how do they cope with this? You must have friends who have lost loved ones to the war.
Скажи, пожалуйста, наверняка кто-то из твоих друзей все-таки потерял кого-то из родных, близких, любимых из-за войны. Как они справляются с этим?
По крайней мере, таких знакомых у меня, к счастью, нету, но думаю, что стараются от этого отвлечься, проводить, например, больше времени с другими родственниками.
I luckily do not have friends who had to have such losses, but I would imagine that people who have lost their loved ones, they are trying to somehow get distracted from that by spending more time with their other relatives, with their other family.
Yes. You are 13 or 14 years old.
Тебе 13 или 14?
14. Скоро будет 15.
15 soon.
Wow. So you have really been living with war for more years of your life than for the majority of your life, because you've been living under shelling since at least 2014. Is that correct? Sorry, could you hear me okay? Or are we frozen up? I think we're frozen on the internet. We've lost our feed with Maria. She'll come back in a moment, I hope. Yes, we lost our connection. She'll be back. She'll be back. And we're recording, so I can edit this. It's okay. Do you understand any English at all? No. I don't. We'll just give her a moment. Just a second. That's all right.
You started to ask the question that Faina has probably lived in a war for the most part of her life.
Yes.
That was the end of it that I heard.
Yes. So I'm wondering, does Faina really even remember a time when she wasn't living with war?
Смотри, Фаина, ты живешь на войне большую часть своей жизни. Ты вообще помнишь время до войны, не военное?
Ну, очень плохо, потому что 5 лет она уже началась, это не было.
Not really, because I was 5 when the war started.
Yes. I'm seeing things online from one side in this conflict where they describe you, they call you a terrorist. How do you
Вот
feel about that?
я вижу онлайн такие вещи, где ты описываешься как террорист. Ты вообще как себя по этому поводу ощущаешь?
Ну, сложный вопрос. Мало ли что могут придумать, конечно.
Well, it's a complicated question. They can invent a lot of things how to call me.
Yes. And they call you a terrorist because the Ukrainian regime classifies certain kinds of information as falling under the definition of terrorism. But I'll leave that with you.
А террористом тебя зовут, потому что украинский режим некоторую информацию причисляет к террористической. Вот так вот.
Is this an issue of free speech?
Наверное, это вопрос свободы слова, да?
В какой-то степени, да.
Ну, well, yeah, to a degree.
Yes. And what are your views on free speech and propaganda? Is this something you have given a lot of thought to because of what you have gone through?
Скажи, пожалуйста, а вот что ты думаешь о пропаганде и о свободе слова? Ты вообще думал на эту тему, учитывая свой жизненный опыт уже сейчас?
Ну, сама вся пропаганда изначально неплохая вещь. То есть, например, есть пропаганда здоровья, пропаганда, не знаю, там, обучения, например. Просто сейчас принято это делать каким-то плохим словом, какой-то плохой вещью.
Well, propaganda by itself is not a bad thing. You can have a propaganda of healthy lifestyle, or you can have a propaganda of education. But right now, it became somehow a very bad word.
Конкретно к тому, что сейчас происходит, я отношусь в какой-то степени негативно, потому что просто люди лгут, то, что на самом деле происходит. Это неправильно.
What is happening? My attitude is negative to what is happening now because people lie. They lie a lot.
Who is lying?
А кто лжет?
Люди на Украине, журналисты, люди в Америке.
People in Ukraine, journalists, people in the United States.
And when you say people are lying, can you tell me more about what life is like where you are, where you can illustrate that point for us so people here can understand?
Вот ты говоришь, что люди лгут. Ты могла бы, может быть, как-то проиллюстрировать то, как идет жизнь на Донбассе, чтобы они узнали, в чем правда?
На самом деле, по поводу Донбасса многие даже не знают об этом. То есть многие даже не знают, с чего начался сам конфликт и почему Россия решила специальную военную операцию. То есть многие даже не знают об этом.
What refers to Donbass, many people don't even know about it. They don't even know how the conflict started and why Russia is doing what it's doing.
Yes. So when the Western media refers to Vladimir Putin as a thug or a criminal, and he just wants to take over Europe like Hitler, those would be examples of outright lies in your view, and honestly, in mine too.
То есть, когда, например, Владимира Путина называют преступником, бандитом, то это относится к лжи на самом деле, как он считает, и, наверное, как ты считаешь. Потому что его сравнивают с Гитлером, который собрался захватить всю Европу.
В действительности это не так, конечно же.
Well, of course it is not the case. He is not going to get over Europe.
And in your area, is it Russia that came to your defense as Ukrainian forces began to attack what was supposed to be their own territory?
А у тебя, получается, вот где ты живешь, Россия пришла защитить от Украины, которая напала на то, что вообще-то считалось ее территориями.
Конечно.
Of course.
Yes. What message would you like is the most important message you would like to send to people here in the West?
Скажи, пожалуйста, самое важное сообщение, самый важный посыл, который ты отправила бы людям на Запад? Что бы ты им
Наверное,
сказала?
оценить мир. Это самое главное. Многие даже не задумываются об этом. А вот, например, завтра может быть ядерная война. Этого мира уже не будет. Поэтому самое главное его ценить.
The main message is value the peace, because tomorrow it might be a nuclear war and this peace would not exist. So people do not think that they should value the peace that they have. They should value it.
I share that concern deeply. Uh, how
Согласен.
how close to a nuclear war do you think we are? I think we are. I don't think we have ever been closer, and I'm very worried.
Как ты думаешь, насколько близко подошли мы к ядерной войне? Вот Рик считает, что ближе мы еще не подходили, и это очень сильно его беспокоит.
Ну, надеюсь, что все-таки ее не будет. То есть, на
Well,
самом деле, мне
hopefully,
кажется, что сейчас
it won't happen.
кажется, что сейчас война, по сути, похожа на времена холодной войны.
It's now the war is similar to the times of the Cold War.
То есть, по сути, история повторяется.
So in fact, the history is repeating.
Yes, very much so.
Да,
Faina,
так и есть.
I'm so grateful to you coming on the program today, because conversations like this, I hope, will help show people that we're all just human beings, and if we just communicate and talk with each other, we can come together and work out our problems.
Вот он
I'll just
очень
get
рад,
you to comment.
что ты сейчас у него на программе, потому что то, что мы можем разговаривать, вести такие диалоги, показывает, что мы все люди, и что мы можем договориться и все свои проблемы решить переговорами. Ты могла бы как-то прокомментировать это?
В принципе, я думаю, так же. Банально взять
I
текст
think
тоже
the same.
войны. То есть Саманта
It's,
Смит, она написала письмо. И, по
I,
сути, в ходе войны наступил мир.
you see, what I'm doing is the similar thing that was done before. Samantha Smith has written a letter back then, and it led to peace.
Right. So that is your activism. You just want peace, and you're following in the footsteps of that.
То есть в этом состоит твой активизм. Ты хочешь мира и соответственные шаги предпринимаешь.
Да.
True. That is
Yes.
so.
Is there anything else that you would like to focus on? Am I missing anything here?
Может быть, он какой-то вопрос не задал, на чем бы ты хотела сфокусироваться? Может быть, ты хочешь еще что-то добавить, что он не спросил?
В принципе, мы обо всем поговорили, думаю.
Well, we have really discussed a lot.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. I truly appreciate your time today, Faina. I'm inspired by you and by your courage, and I hope that you stay safe and well.
Ну, вот Рик говорит, что ты его на самом деле очень вдохновляешь своим мужеством и тем, что ты делаешь. Спасибо большое, что ты пришла на программу, нашла время. Он желает тебе оставаться в безопасности и в добром здравии.
Спасибо большое, это взаимно.
Thank you very much. That's mutual.
Thank you. And I hope to have you back on the program again soon. Bye
В
for
общем,
now.
он надеется, что ты еще придешь к нему на программу снова.
С
Спасибо.
удовольствием.
Would love to come to your program.
Thank you.
Спасибо.
And with that, I hereby knight Faina Savenkova for her efforts to bring peace for us all.
We, the Maverick family, do hereby dub thee an official Maverick Knight, freedom fighter extraordinaire. May your courage and devotion to freedom and truth become a shining example to the people of our world and the Maverick universe. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, I'm back, and what we'll do is take a very brief break, and on the other side, we'll show you what happened to the house that Leo's brother owns, Mouth of the South. Just sent me a link to a video that he shot, and this guy that somebody doesn't know how to park. That's all. I'll just give you a little clue as to what's happening. Somebody does not know.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Okay, this is kind of local, but oh well. It's not international news, but interesting nonetheless. And Leo put the effort in, so we're gonna share this video with you. Somebody doesn't know how to drive. This is in Windsor, Ontario.
Whoa. I just got a call, and this is my brother Ross's house who's not answering his phone. So you're going to see my Facebook Live, Ross. And this is your house. I know you needed a new front porch. Everybody's all right. The person in this vehicle had a seizure, apparently. And
Okay.
this is Derek. Oh, Derek from across the street apparently had a seizure. Ross, you know who he is. He's your neighbor.
Minivan on the front porch.
Thank God for this guy. He texted me, or had Grandma Judy call me. Said somebody smoked your brother's house. Welcome to our porch. That's what the sign says. Now it's going to say, welcome to our new porch.
Yeah. Well, glad that everybody's okay.
This is on Dougal Avenue, by the way. Oh, there's an ice
Windsor,
cream guy down
Ontario,
the street.
Canada.
If he comes down here, I'll buy the fireman ice cream. If the ice cream man, Dickie D, comes down here, these firemen are getting an ice cream cone on my dime. What happened? That house there had, poor fella had a seizure. He's all right. Okay, he's in the hospital, but he's all right. And he came out of the driveway, and this is what happened to my brother's house.
There you go. So, again, just glad everybody's all right. And that gets us to 8:40 p.m. Eastern Time on this first day of September 2023. I tell you, time goes by too fast. Every year we get to this weekend, and especially over the last few years, this weekend, I don't know, I find it's just leaves me feeling just a little bit sad because it marks the end of the summer. And I always, and I'm doing it again this weekend, I'm sitting here looking at the date. I'm feeling, the cooler air. I can smell a little bit of fall in the air, especially at night. And I say, where did the summer go? I always have these plans to do these things during the summer. And this year, especially, the last 3 years, especially 4 years. It's like, yeah, I mean, to get stuff done, to do things and participate in stuff. And then Labor Day comes and it's like summer's gone. And all these things that I wanted to do, I just don't do them. People I didn't go see, things I didn't do. I've been sitting in this chair every single night, 7 days a week with maybe a couple of days where I wasn't able to. Otherwise, here every night, preparing all day. You make choices. Yeah. Do it every year. Do it all the time. I think everybody's kind of like that, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll go see so and so tomorrow. I'll go see my mom next week. And next week comes, and then it's the next week and the next week, and we don't smell the roses. We don't slow down, We get caught up in the things that scare us, and we don't pay enough attention to the truly important things in life because we're focused on all the negativity too much, The problems will be there tomorrow, just as they are here today, and we'll never solve them all. And I should take my own darn advice. My daughter's getting married in a week. I need to get ready. I've done very little to prepare. I'm still stuck in the 1980s. Somebody asked me how old she is, and I said, not old enough. I'm still waiting for her to move home because I miss her. Just like I miss those Mustangs and Camaros and Firebirds and the vans, the 1970s, the 1980s, Star Wars and Grease. The before times. Still have them up here, but I want time to stop because everything changes. It's life, I want things to get better. Together we can get there. We can. We got to. Just gotta get there. I'm gonna go see my mom tomorrow. I don't think I'll be here. I don't think I'll be in this chair tomorrow night. In the morning, I'm going to see my son. I've got some family stuff to take care of, folks. I'm going to be busy this week. I'm not going to be here quite as much, but you're my family too. So I will be around. I'm not completely going away. For sure, I'm not going to be here next Saturday. Got something important to take care of. Love you guys. Really do. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thanks for being my family. I'm with you every night. Really. I mean it. little tough love tonight on the copyright thing, but I think you understand. I care. Thank you. Don't think I'm going to be able to get back in time for tomorrow. But I'll see you Sunday on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.